essere qui. Thank you, Marcus, for being here to open with us this cycle of interview about reflection, about biocentric culture. And for us, it's a real gift, your presence and your work. I just would like to ask you, for you, what is the deep meaning of biocentric culture facing this complex moment for human community? What do you think about it?
Thank you, Giovanna, for this honor to open this series of conversations about the reflection about the situations and about the life in this moment. We start to do a study about the situation in Germany and in the world to reflect about the existing models to describe the life in the psychology and other sciences. And there is a shift necessary from the anthropocentric model where the human is in the middle of everything. It's like a hierarchy and power above other species, yes, towards a biocentric paradigm. This is clear out of the analysis. And this situation which we face at the moment is an individual identity crisis and also a collective identity crisis, where we have to ask us if this lifestyle what we have is still suitable for the questions, existential questions on this planet. And I will give you a couple of numbers which are incredible, alarming. In the last 50 years, there is a World Life Index which is reporting every year about the situation of the animals in this planet. And now in 2020 came the World Life Index report that 84% of the animals are declined in this planet. 84% are not anymore. And in 65 in the animals and 84 in the water animals. So this percentage tells us that we have a lifestyle which is so dominating. It's not thinking in affective relationships towards plants and towards animals, that we have to change something. And Rolando Toro always mentioned the depression. Yes. The depression is another alarming signal, and the exhaustion is another alarming signal that we have to change something in the culture. So, and what is the reason for this problems? There is pathologies of affectivity which were cultivated in the last 50, 60 years, which reflect about the style how we communicate. Yes, about the discrimination of other races and of other life forms. Yes, to exploit the nature. Yes, and you was part of this reflection, and you told me that there is a deep theory of deep ecology of Arne Næss. Yes, which say that we cannot speak about the nature, we are the nature. Yes, so we are a complex of living beings where we are part of it. Yes, and this we need to live. Yes, this we need to understand out of our reflection and out of our experience. So and of course there are different ways. If you let me explain a little bit, or maybe you have another question to it.
Just a little question,
Yes.
because you did a very important and vast and large study recently, which results the difference between focus on anthropocentric and focus on biocentric.
Yes.
Could you
explain a little bit.
A little bit.
Yes.
For us.
The pandemic situation was or is a situation which is completely new for everybody. So this situation, the reaction to this situation is pure, is authentic. Nobody can hide behind a mask, because every person in this planet comes to a border. Yes, in this moment. So when we start this investigation, we were looking, or the main question was, how can we explain the biocentric idea? Because if it's an identity crisis, how can we explain the biocentric idea in the fields of psychology, in the fields of medicine, in the fields of education, for instance? Yes. And when you deal with this, you find a lot of anthropocentric theories. Yes, in the psychology, for instance, there are a lot of theories which describe how can cope the human with the stress, how can regulate the human his emotion. Yes, so the biocentric idea is always to say how can cope the human with his emotion, how can cope the human with his stress in relation to others, in relation to nature. This is always the question. So the anthropocentric models ask not this question, these affective relations towards others and towards nature. Yes, and to give you a little example, for instance, in the psychology, we had to develop a scale about empathy, and if you ask Rolando Toro what is empathy, he say doing. But the psychological theories, they all focus either can I say what the other feel, or can I say what the other think? This is the cognitive and affective aspects of empathy. Yes, but not the action. So the action is the position of the action, the activity is not there. Yes, so there are a lot of anthropocentric ideas which we doesn't want to exclude. No, these are the ideas. These are our basic theories, but we have to add some theories to open the conscious. Yes, and this exactly we did in this pandemic management theory. Like we have two circles in this theory. One circle is the anthropocentric models, how the psychology, for instance, imagine how we cope with this pandemic situation. There are some. The most important thing to cope, or where the coping starts, is the interpretation of the situation. Like, how do I interpret the situation? Which is my interpretation, my cognitive evaluation of the situation? Am I frustrated, or am I threatened, for instance? Or do I see the situation as a challenge? Yes, or do I see the situation with suspicious? Yes, so there are two ways how to cope with this situation. One is a very negative way, yes, where I get all this acute and chronic stress symptoms later, or anxieties also. And one is a positive way, where, for instance, if I interpret the situation as a challenge, I will have a lot of benefits out of it. Yes, and for Rolando, for instance, it was very important the feeling of optimism. Yes. So this feeling of optimism is based on our cognitive interpretation of a situation. Yes, and on the other hand, on our body. Yes, to feel alive in the body. So what we did was that we described in an outer circle the way from the interpretation of the situation to the health. Yes, and in the inner circle we described the basics of identity, and the base of this identity, of human identity, is a biological core, as Rolando Toro also say. Yes, and this biocentric core means that there are two mechanisms working. One is the autoregulation, yes, which is in every cell, which is in every living system, not only in humans, also in plants, also in animals. So this is the connecting language, yes, and this autoregulation has also a certain rhythm. This is chronobiology. So chronobiology is a biocentric discipline, yes, to explain the rhythm into plants, in the animals, and also in the humans, yes. And the rhythm is always a connecting language, yes. So so in this biocentric core, So which is the base of our identity. Yes, if this is not function, we lose our feeling who we are. Yes, so the autoregulation is one basic mechanism in this biocentric core, and the other is the autopoiesis. Yes, that there are some biological jumps. Yes, which brings, for instance, the immune system to another level. Yes, if a person is doing certain interventions, for instance, is doing Biodanza, yes, and produce this inner feeling of being alive, yes, so express emotions, for instance, yes, going into contact with others in a body contact, in a non-verbal contact, this is very important, yes, then this inner jumps will be produced, and these inner jumps are the base for developmental jumps also in the attitudes and values, and also in the psychological parameters, because the biocentric core, from the biological core, the hormone system, the immune system, and the central nervous system, and the genetic potential, yes, spread then when they function healthy, spread then in the psychology, yes, and biocentric culture starts exactly there, yes, it starts exactly there, and that we are focused in the complexity of the human behavioral organization, and we ask us the question, which part of this organization is connected to the animal and connected to the plants. Yes, and one we have already said is the autoregulation. The next is the rhythm. The rhythm is connecting everything. Yes, and the next connection is the instinct. Yes, this connects us with the animals. So we have the impulses, the instincts, we have the needs, we have the emotion and the feelings. Yes, and this bottom part of the human organization we have to reflect theoretically, and we have to explain to psychologists and to medical doctors and to psychotherapists how important it is to stimulate, because this is the biocentric culture. It starts in us. It starts not in the outside. Yes. So what we found in this study was that to reach autonomy, yes, the most important thing is not going in the outside and to look that the government gives me not the freedom. No, it's going in the inside. Yes, and to look, how are my thoughts, how are my feelings, how are my how's my breathing. So this connection. Yes, we found in our study that this correlates a lot with feelings of empathy, feelings of love, feelings of autonomy, feelings of expansivity. Yes, so there it starts. So let's summarize. So you have a biocentric core, which is the basic for our collective and our individual identity. Okay, so from this biocentric core, where there are two mechanisms, this autoregulation and autopoiesis, are the jumps, you can expand and connect to all the psychological things, which is the instinct, which is the needs, which are the emotions, and then you come more in the cognitive way, the motives of your behavior, and also the aims of your behavior. Yes. So, and this complexity leads you in integration. And the integration is the integration of your feeling, of your thinking, and your acting. Mm-hmm. Yes? So, and this integration is very important to develop an ethic behavior to live in this world. And what is now hindering this reaching of the biocentric core and getting this human identity where I can live in cooperation with other species, animals and plants. And there we have defined now biocentric borders. Yes, so we have defined biocentric borders, and we have defined biocentric fields of action. What do we have to do to reach the core and to overcome the biocentric borders? Okay, so the biocentric borders in our behavior, when you remember in the beginning, what is the reason why we have this terrible attitude to kill animals, to waste or to exploit our seas and all these things, to exploit the nature. And I mean, the first thing are these affective pathologies. And this starts with destroying of ourself, missing self-love, yes, then discrimination of others, yes, this deep. This is an affective pathology, unable to express our emotions and feelings. Yes, where we have to start in the schools that the children can learn this freely, and the education, and the last is the inability to communicate. So then comes the anxieties. So the pandemic situation has the anxieties plays a lot of, and we have to reflect, very conscious what happens in pandemics, yes, and when we start to write this theory and to explain it to other sciences, we start, of course, to analyze other theories, yes, and there is one theory which reflect the feeling of humans after terrorist attacks, yes, and it's from Greenberg, and he say that when there is a natural catastrophic, then there is one anxiety, which is the anxiety to die. Okay, and this anxiety reflects the self-value of a human. So it's getting unstable, the self-value, and this the unstable self-value of the individual reflects the values of the community. Okay, so the community to stable the self-value is closing and discriminates by discriminating others. Okay, so this is the terror management theory of Greenberg. Okay, so we said this is not only one anxiety; there are a lot of anxieties. Yes, and Rolando defined 90 anxieties, yeah, which I find great, and this doesn't exist in the psychology up to now. Yeah, this is something which Rolando gave us, this really complex theories. But unfortunately, you have to do a lot of studies to it, and you have to prove these theories about instincts, about anxieties, and so on. And so the biocentric borders related to anxieties are four borders, as you know. One is the border, the anxiety before living. Yes. The other is the anxiety to love. Yes. In the psychology, there's no scientific concept about love. It is terrible in the education as well. There are a few studies about love, but they has to be done because the only way to get into institution is unfortunately as a very rational way, by doing studies. Yes. The third anxiety is the anxiety to express, yeah, and the fourth anxiety is the anxiety before nature. So this is the second biocentric border which we defined why people doesn't reach the biocentric core and cannot act in an affective way towards nature. Yeah? So I only called it the last, and then you have the biocentric border of some physiological protection mechanism. For instance, if things happen like this, people get more and more hypersensitive. Yes. Then you have the biocentric border of stress consequences. A lot of people are under stress, and when you have a stress, there's no empathy possible. It's not possible. So biocentric education starts, of course, with coping with stress and live a more relaxed life. Yes. The biocentric culture is a relaxed culture. Yeah? Yeah. So there are many other borders. We have 6 borders defined, like in a cube. There is also the border that the interpretation of the situation, that we have to be very conscious about our reflection about situations. The self-reflection is a part of the autoregulation, and if you have to develop a culture of self-reflection, yes. Otherwise, if you only develop a culture of regulation of emotion, there's missing one part. So we need to relax a culture of feedback. We need to relax a culture where mistakes are possible. We need to make a culture where we can be honest who we are. But we live in a culture which is totally fake. Yes, if you are false, you go up. And if you are honest, you get a lot of consequences. Yes, and there are many things to say also in education. How is it possible? Why a child is getting this dependency? Well, what is the reason for dependency disorders? Yes, there are a lot of dependency disorders, and there starts the biocentric border not to be connected to nature, and the reason of this is pain. Yes, so there's a lot to do. And with this theory, we hope to improve the situation by explaining to experts how important the biocentric approach is. Let me say the last thing about the biocentric fields of action. Yes, because these are the main fields which we have to work on. Okay, and it was not easy to define these fields because there are several theories around. Okay, Rolando Toro is one person who worked to the biocentric principle. But there are other persons, also Albert Schweitzer, for instance, yes, is a very important person, Arne Næss, which you mentioned, but also Ruth Cavalcante and Cesar Wagner, of course, and but also the field of chronobiology is very important. So there are a lot of other fields which works on it, and it was not easy to find a conclusion of the fields which are really important, because of course you can say everything's biocentric, yes, but a scientific way is a way where you have a critical reflection about this, and you have to set borders, yes, what is biocentric and what is maybe another thing. It's okay, yeah. So, and you cannot put everything in one kettle and then cook it and then say this is biocentric. It's not working, yes. So that's why we defined 6 fields of biocentric fields of action. The first field is the affective communication. Yeah? The second field is the lively corporality, and this is based on Ruth Cavalcante. This is a good thing what Ruth Cavalcante developed, and this is the connection to the instincts. Okay, so the third thing is the contact to the identity and the inner orientation. So because in our study we found how important the self-reflection is and how important it is to develop identity. Yes, and there, of course, there's a lot of influence of Rolando with the criteria, what is a healthy identity and so on. The fourth is the expression of the life potentials. Yes, and there, of course, Rolando with the 5 lines of experience is so important. Yes, especially the sexuality. Yes, and then we did the fifth field is the field of the connection to the wholeness, yeah? Where, of course, in the model of Biodanza is very nice described, the pulsation of the identity from the individual to the regressive part, to the connection of the wholeness. We use a little bit other parts because other words because the regression is already used by the psychoanalytic, and which makes a big confusion in the psychologists. This is a problem, and also a critical reflection about the theory of Biodanza is that the needs are not reflected at all. Everybody speaks about instincts, but the psychology speaks about needs. I know why Rolando decided not to speak about needs, but we have to reflect about it. Otherwise, the theory is not reflected well. So the needs, in my point of view, are very important for the discussion about the biocentric. Yes, because the needs have also animals have needs. Yes. And about plants, we know what plants can do, and this is another interesting discussion about how plants interact with us and so on. But this is the 5th biocentric field, and the last biocentric field. What we have to develop is a connection to the complex with the living, affective connection to the complex with living elements, and how we can create ethical attitudes. So this is the work we have done in the last 6 months. It's published now, and the aim is not to explain another time to Biodanza people what we need. The aim is to open this wonderful system and the wonderful ideas of Rolando on a scientific base, and this means always a critical reflection, and this is painful sometimes, because you have to answer the question, what can Biodanza not do? What is missing maybe in Biodanza where we need another a method to work together with, which method we can work together with, and which method we can't work together with. So this work has to be done, yes, and this is the aim of our work, to open this field and to enter institution by this critical discussion.
Incredible, amazing work. just un minuto to thank you and già
Then we enjoy life.
già termino.
Then la bella vita.
Ok, e fico qua pure sta la risposta da crianza che la vita è bonita, è bonita. Viver. Estamos registrando, mi amor. Thank you, Marcus, for your fantastic, amazing, incredible work, your dedication for spreading biocentric culture with your life and your work. And we are in it. We are in it together. Thank you.
Yes.
Together. Thank you very much.
Thank you to your honor, because you are a person with your school, Centro Gaia, which brings this idea by action in the world. And that's amazing, really. Really, your work is amazing. The forum is amazing. So I say to all the Biodanza people, come to the forum. We shift Biodanza to another level. Yes.
Go together.
Go
yes.
together.
Thank you.
you.
Bellissimo. Grazie Antonio.
Grazie Antonio. Grazie Giovanna.
Fuori onda.
Dai, fuori onda.
Questo è il fuori onda.
Ah sì, Che bello.
Che bello.
Che bella, mi ha emozionato.
Sì, un po' mito.
Io ho capito tutto. Io capisco il tuo inglese. Now, I understand you 100%. Incredibile, no? The French, the corazon. È il corazon.
I think this theory is complete. It's complete.
Io penso che tu hai dato una teoria molto completa. Because I remember the abstract. I read, and following your speech, I remember all the points are very present and brilliant.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you, Giovanna.
Evviva!
You must do also an interview about your work.
Yes, why not? Facciamo una foto, un fuori onda tutti insieme.
Sì. Alle zusammen.
Alle zusammen.
Alle zusammen.
That's Giuseppe.
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 Tu anche.
Wonderful.
Giuseppe. Anche Zora, patatini.
Giuseppe.
E Antonio è dietro, la foto l'ho fatta dietro, ragazzi.
Antonio is amazing.
Yeah, number one.
Amazing Antonio.
Yes.
Hey.
Non mi fate cadere.
Scusa, sei emozionato?
En la gata también.
Yeah,
La gatta.
Zora, sì.
Zora,
Zora,
vieni.
Topina.
I swear.
I swear.
No, si deve dire
All the nonsense.
All the nonsense.
I pledge all the nonsense.
Total nonsense.
For all the nonsense.
For all the nonsense.
Forever nonsense.
Forever
nonsense.
nonsense. Evviva!
Everybody.
1, 2, 3, 2.
Uno.
Alla gente
2, 3,
1, 2,
3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
La giorno vede l'ora di rifarlo, questo esercizio. Il suo esercizio preferito.